Good morning, everybody. Let's discuss the real possibility, the actual possibility of some kind of civil war in this country. A lot of people say it jokingly, but what are the implications of something like that actually happening? Do you think it's going to be North versus South? Or little pockets breaking out everywhere? What would that do to this country? That would make us weak. It would make us look weak for all of our other not so friendly countries around the world. That would be a perfect time to attack us. But what would that do to you as an individual, as a family? How would you deal with an actual civil war? What are things that you can do to stop it? Probably not much. I feel like there's an 80% chance of something like that actually happening. I honestly do. 85, 90% chance. This year's elections, this country is so divided right now. People cannot communicate. If you don't have the same opinion as somebody else, you are automatically, without a doubt, treated as lower class. Whether you're on the left or the right. Everybody on the right sees the people on the left as lunatics. And in my opinion, there's a lot of things on the left that I don't agree on. And then on the right, everybody on the left thinks that they are, walking, just Nazis walking around. This country, I don't feel like it can come back together as a whole. I honestly don't feel like people can get their heads out of their butts and come together. And it is so depressing to think about people not getting along. But what are you going to do? What can you do for something like that to happen? That's going to happen. This election cycle is going to separate people more than the last 4 or 5 years have separated people. The first thing that I would do is not go anywhere without some kind of protection. Because as we see on the news, time and time again, every day, people are getting shot because they're arguing over a small traffic jam or a yelling match. Somebody cuts in line in front of them at the store. People are literally dying over this kind of stuff. The t-shirt that you're wearing, the red hat that somebody may be wearing, people are dying over that kind of... For what? Human life has been degraded so bad in this country for a purpose. We have been divided for a purpose. It's an intentional separation of people. Whether it's black or white, Pepsi or Coke, this football team or that football team. Literally everything in this country has been split down the middle. You're either this or you're that. And the people that are in power want us like that because we are easier to control. Why fight everybody when you can have them fight themselves and pretend like you're the good guy, pretend like you're the mediator when you're the one causing it in the first place? But the first thing that I would do is go out and get some kind of protection for yourself. whether you live in a blue state or a red state, do whatever you can to get some kind of protection. If you're in a blue state, I suggest moving. I know that's hard for a lot of people. It's hard for me, but I'm working towards it. That is my number one goal in life, is to move to the hills, to where nobody lives. That's what we're working on. Second thing I would do after doing that and getting enough ammunition for said tool, or a crossbow, or a taser, or pepper spray, or whatever you can get your hands on, whatever you're allowed to carry with you, I suggest getting something and not going anywhere without it. And then not going anywhere where you're not allowed to have it, or minimize it as much as possible. These people out here are absolutely insane. I see it. I drive for a living. I drive 10 hours a day, every day. I interact with people every day. I interact with hundreds of people every day. There are so many freaking nut jobs out here. It's terrifying. I see it firsthand, man. They're if we could ever come together, it would take way too long. We can't come together before this election. We can't come together in the next 10 years. It would take generations. It would take at least 3 or 4 generations before everybody started to come together enough to where it would actually matter or change. The programming that we've been under for the last couple of decades, the generations that have been brainwashed for the last couple of generations, we can't get ahead of this. I'm almost certain that there is going to be some kind of physical altercation in this country. Whether it be the Russians or the Chinese or ourselves fighting each other. But let's be honest, there have already been, things like that. And that's been going on for decades. Big cities, people fighting each other. The invasion that's going on right now as we speak on the border. The government literally flying people up here from countries that are so screwed up, and those people, the majority of them coming up here, do not have the values and the morals of people that want to get along. There are quite a few that are just coming here to have a better life, and I get that. But there are so many people coming up here willing to kill somebody or steal something and not care about the consequences because they grew up without consequences in their own country. So get yourself some kind of protection and not go anywhere without it. I don't care if it's down the street to Dunkin' Donuts to get a coffee. I don't care if it is going to the grocery store or to Walmart or going out to the park. Things happen just like that in the blink of an eye. After you do that, I suggest getting some kind of preparations, because you can roll a dice and see what kind of catastrophe is going to happen within the next 5 or 10 years. Economical collapse, the poles shifting, solar flares, nuclear war. All of these things are going to result in some kind of war or battle or whatever you want to call it, any number of these things will result in violence in this country. Not to mention the political divide that we are going through. That is just like the last straw, the last thing. What is that term? The thing that broke the camel's back, the straw that broke the camel's back. That is the trigger point, is to make sure everybody is divided. The Karl Marx thing, the Communist Manifesto. My grandma passed away, and I got a bunch of books from her in her thing or whatever. And one of them, she worked at a graphics company, and they printed books. And she had hundreds of books that she got over the years. And she got the Communist Manifesto from like the 80s or whatever, really old little, pamphlet. And I was reading it, just, looking at it, and it lists everything on how to take down a country from within. And I'd be damned if literally everything in there is what is happening. Divide people, confuse people about who they are, collapse the economy, have not yours but the communities, make everybody believe that your children aren't theirs but they are the state's. All these things are going on right now. It is a giant play. It's all scripted out, what they're doing. They're literally telling us what they're doing. They just spin it to make it seem like it's for a good cause. We're helping people from other countries, so we're bringing them here illegally. The planet, the greenhouse gases are destroying the planet, so we're demanding edicts about how and what you can drive and how far you can drive, what you're allowed to say. Look at Canada, what they're trying to pass. The freedom of speech could cause life in prison. They're trying to take away the Second Amendment. Your right to private property, they are trying to take that away. They are trying to destroy everything that made this country. And there's going to be a boiling point. There's going to be a point to where this snaps and people just say no to it. You need to prepare yourself for it. You don't need to go out and buy all the high-tech, cool guy stuff. You don't need to go out and buy a $6,000 firearm with a $3,000 infrared scope. You don't need to buy a ghillie suit. You don't need to, red dawn it. But you need to learn practical things that you can do. Like learning how to make bread, learning how to grow food, learning how to sew, learning how to do medical stuff, learning what kind of plants and herbs in your area are used for medicinal purposes, how to start a fire with sticks, like the basic stuff. I suggest getting some kind of firearm, because the world is crazy right now, and it's better to defend yourself. But after that, learn all the basics as much as you can. I suggest going out and spending your money on things that distract you, like movies, like Netflix, like going out to eat. And you need some kind of normalcy, I get that, but you can have normalcy at the house. You can play board games with your kids. You can play cards. You can go on a walk. You can go camping. You can still have a normal life without going out and blowing all your money. and use that and save that and put it towards preparing your life. Because their goal was, 2030, to where we don't have gas-powered anything anymore, to where everything is on solar and everything can be controlled because it's all electronic. There is a reason that they want everything to be controllable. I thought it was weird when I was younger when they put the smart meters up on the telephone poles, to where they can literally see how much electricity you're using and when and what for. There have been studies done, or not studies, but there have been cases of people growing weed at their house, and the cops were able to figure it out because the amount of power that they used at a certain period of time, a high amount of power would turn on and then it would shut off at exactly the right time every time. And the meter can figure that out. AI will be able to do and see everything that you're doing. Get away from technology as much as possible. Learn to live some kind of lifestyle like they did in the 1800s. Like, mix that with a little bit of what we have now. So when things go away, when things get so bad that there is no electricity, that there is no power, that there is no grocery store, you have your normalcy already because that's what you're used to. Like, learn and get used to that right now. So when it all does happen, you're not so overwhelmed with everything at once. Things tend to happen to people, like bad things, and we don't know how to comprehend it because there's so much stuff going on. It's so overwhelming. It's the same thing as prepping. I don't know what to prep for. There are so many things going on right now. Should I buy a gas mask? Should I build a bunker? What should I do? You get so wrapped up in it, all you want to do is curl up in a ball and say, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with what's going on. But you have to, and you have to start somewhere. You know, just like building a business, you have to start somewhere. It starts with an idea, a thought. Then you put that thought into action. You do one thing at a time. You build one little thing at a time. And then over time, it gets better and more efficient. Things just don't all happen at once. And when they do, they spiral out of control because you're not used to it and you can't control everything that's going on. And you get overwhelmed. I've had it happen to me in my life many times. All you can do is start with one thing and go from there. Whether it's a case of water or some extra cans of food, and just buy a little bit here and a little bit there. Learn a little bit here, learn a little bit there. You ever tried to study for a test and you try to cram everything in at once? You don't remember anything. But if you have a couple months to prepare for it and you read a couple sentences or a paragraph or two a night and you go over it, repetition, you'll know it like the back of your hand. And practice. And continue to grow. That's the only way you're going to get better. That's the only way you're going to survive what's going to happen. Whether you get so overwhelmed and God forbid you do something to yourself because you can't handle it, or you starve because the grocery stores are closed. I mean, look at New York right now, where they're putting National Guard troops in the subway. They aren't just throwing it all out at once. They are slowly unrolling what's going to happen. Does anybody remember Jade Helm? Where they were getting us used to the idea of the military in the streets. Oh, it was just for practice is what the cover-up was. And it wasn't just that. They were seeing how people would react to it. They test the waters here and there to see how people would react. Same thing as 2020. Whether that was planned or not, the point is that is that they used it for a practice. Hey, we have a problem. Let's see what we can do with it and see how the people are going to react. And they saw how people reacted. A lot of people complied with it. They said, okay, well, here are the pockets that aren't going to, play ball. Let's figure out what we can do with them. And over the years, you've seen what they've done. They've demonized people. A straight white Christian male is all of a sudden a Nazi, is all of a sudden Hitler, is all of a sudden the devil and evil. They have warped people's minds so bad into believing that somebody that is Christian or somebody that is straight is an evil person because they don't line up with their ideas. Whatever happened to being who you were? Whatever happened to being yourself? I could care less about who and what you are. I don't agree with it and I think it's wrong, but that is my opinion. But because people can't express their opinions anymore that don't align up with the establishment, you're considered all these nasty things. That's why I don't think that we can come back together. The left and the right could, if the media and the government would stay out of it. We could over time come back together, but not with the government that we have right now, because they are set on dividing everybody. Prepare for some kind of war as much as possible. Learn to grow your own food. Learn to can your own food. Learn to knit. Learn to sew. Learn how to live like they did in the 17 and 1800s. Learn how to make your own electricity. I wouldn't recommend putting it on the grid. A lot of people get, solar panels and they'll hook it to the grid. My goal is to get off of the grid, like completely. I don't care if they pay me for extra electricity or not. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about not being tied to it. So when the grid goes down, they can't shut me down. I'm more worried about collecting my own rainwater and growing my own food, because I don't want anybody to tell me what and what I can't do. That is the only way that you're going to survive what's going to happen. I promise you. And as sad as that is, it's the truth. If you can't take care of yourself, if you're too lazy to do anything yourself, then what happens to you is your own fault. Don't sit there and say, they did all this and I can't do anything about it. Because at the end of the day, what happens to you is 100% up to you. I hope you'll have a fantastic day. Bye.